On August the 30th, one of the most anticipated films of the decade finally comes to theaters, Reagan. It's going to be the sweeping life story of movie star, president, and American icon Ronald Reagan. Here's just a little sneak peek at this epic new biography. Watch.
I will be frank with you that as a citizen, I would not like to see any political party outlawed on the basis of its ideology, because I still believe, Mr. Chairman, that democracy can handle it.
I was a brand new KGB officer, given my first intelligence assignment. A certain actor and union leader.
Dutch, there's a purpose for your life.
You can run from a bully for so long, but after a while, you're gonna have to stand up to him.
It's my boy!
There's about to be another war right here in Hollywood. The commies on one side, the mob on the other. And you're right in the middle, son.
If you put as much work into your career as you do making your speeches, you'd have an Oscar by now.
Hello, I'm Nancy Davis.
Hello, Nancy Davis. I'm Ron Reagan.
I'm curious, Ron.
What would you say is the issue of our time?
No question about it. Communism and the Soviet Union.
Get in the game, run for office.
And aren't we glad that he did get in the game and run for office? Can't wait to see this film. We're very honored tonight to have with us 4 of the stars of the movie Reagan. To start our discussion, I want you to welcome the man who takes on the iconic title role of Ronald Reagan, one of Hollywood's most prolific and celebrated actors, Dennis Quaid, and Academy Award winner, the legendary Jon Voight. Welcome them. Good to you, John.
Oh, there you go. No,
I don't know if we have room for you, John. We really are thrilled the dog is here. You know, I love dogs. I'm a dog person. I don't think the world would be...
I have no idea who this is.
You
actually.
do, too.
Yeah, today's her birthday, though.
You've got to bring the dog on this
Peaches.
birthday. Peaches.
She actually plays the family dog. She's in Reagan. She's the only non-historical fact in the whole movie. They didn't have a bulldog.
Well, you know what? They should have. And they should have named it Peaches, and it would have been even better for the film. Well, I want to tell you both what an absolute honor it is to have you here.
Oh,
both of you. You've given us all so many incredible films over the years.
Well, thank you. The honor's ours. The honor really is ours, Mr. Huckabee. It's really an honor to be here.
Well, you've played, both of you have, but let me start with you, Dennis, because, I mean, I've seen you in roles from Jerry Lee Lewis all the way to Ronald Reagan. Now, that's a pretty big spectrum.
Reagan was challenging, and it was just so much involved. I got to work with this man here, Mr. Jon Voight, who is, gosh, he was my acting hero. Coming up.
You know how I got into this film? We went to, they said, John, come out, and I heard all about it, you know, the script and stuff. And I heard Dennis was going to do it. So they said, well, Dennis, you know, let's have just a little lunch. And, you know, let's talk about it. And I really didn't know if I was going to do it or not. It was very questionable to me at that time. And I went to the lunch and saw Dennis. And Dennis, you know, he's a peer. He's a young peer to me, but he's a peer. And I've admired his work, you know. And at the end of it, he said, John, I want you to do it. And that meant a lot to me. And I thought about it. I said, you know, that's a nice gesture for him to say that the way he said it. I should do this film. And that's why I did it. I did it because of your request, actually, at that time.
It's such a pivotal role he's got. It's a really interesting point of view, the way the story is told, through the eyes of a KGB agent, who the KGB actually did keep files on Reagan going so far back into Hollywood and at his time as the president of the Screen Actors Guild. And a very interesting way to tell this story, and of the man who, along with Lech Walesa and the Pope, won the Cold War.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you've played John Paul II. I mean, among the many roles you've played, John, is, I think about everything from Midnight Cowboy and Deliverance all the way to Pope John Paul. That, too, is a stretch.
Don't forget Coming Home.
A pretty big stretch. But you play the character through which the story is told, the KGB agent, the composite. I think it's just a brilliant way to tell this story, because it's not the way you would expect for us to hear the story of Ronald Reagan, through the thoughts of somebody on the other side. But someone without Reagan would still be the KGB and the Soviet Empire. Right. I mean, Ronald Reagan did something that people thought couldn't be done. He brought down the Soviet Union. Dennis, one of the things that occurs to me, when Ronald Reagan was elected, so many people thought that he was a crazy cowboy and he would push the button.
A warmonger.
We were going to have world war. We had the most peaceful time in American history through my lifetime.
We were a nation in decline in very much like our times today, to tell you the truth. 78,
Very
79, 80. We were a nation in decline, so we were told. There was just a lethargy going, a malaise, as Carter put it. We had hostages in Iran. Nobody talks about the hostages that we have over in the Middle East right now.
Yeah.
And gas prices, interest rates, 20%. It was very similar. And, Reagan came along and said, we're not going that way, we're going this way. And he made us believe that there was morning in America. And, to me, he was the greatest president of the 20th century.
Absolutely amazing president. And one of the reasons he defied so many of the people around him, all of the establishment and the bureaucrats who told him, don't say this, don't do that, he did it because it was in his conscience to do it.
Yes. And that was the thing about him that I really learned that was a really good lesson for me, too, is that Reagan, he was a Democrat right up until 64. He always said that, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, it left me. But he, as far as governing, and the way he lived his life, he governed by principles. And if you do that, that goes beyond political party. And it also means, that you make decisions that are unpopular even, but that they're the right ones because they adhere to those principles. And that is what will win out in the end. And he stuck to that all throughout his political career, whether Democrat or Republican. And that's what broke down the Soviet Union, I think, in the end.
There's so many great scenes in the film. One of them is that Reagan has just been shot, and he's visited in the hospital by Tip O'Neill, the Speaker of the House, played by Dan Lauria. I want you to watch this. It's very emotional, very powerful. Watch.
Boy, he'll do anything to get that damn tax cut.
I left specific orders, no Democrats within 100 yards.
You'll have to grin and bear it. How you doing, pal?
Well, I don't recommend getting shot.
No.
Tip, I think there was a reason for all this. There's a big job left to be done, and whatever time I have left, it belongs to him.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Love that scene. Love that scene. Dennis, is it harder to play a figure that we all know? There's probably no one whose voice and image has been put on the American scene more than Ronald Reagan's. Does that make it harder to play someone that everybody knows?
Well, when I got offered the role, and a shiver of fear went up my spine. Because, as I told you, he was my favorite president. I mean, I voted for him, and I went home, and my roommate you know, said, "Who'd you vote for?" I said, "Ronald Reagan." He said, "You are kicked out of the hippies." I turned in my card. But he was like, you know, he was like Muhammad Ali too. Everybody in the world knows what Reagan, what he sounds like, and I didn't want to do an impersonation, of course. And so I didn't say yes or no because I wanted to acting to. I want to tell when I play a real person to tell the story from their point of view. And Reagan was a very private man, besides being the great communicator. They're hard to penetrate. But when I went up to the Reagan Ranch, which I got invited to while I was deliberating this, and it's not open to the public, and it was bought by his friends that we passed, and they left he and Nancy's clothes in the closet. You expect them to come back any minute. And it came through the gate, and I could just feel him. You could feel him in the pasture, and you could see the work that he had done there. I realized that Reagan was a very humble man. The house itself, the Western White House, is 1,100 square feet, maybe. They had a king-size bed, but it was 2 single beds that were zip-tied together. And, of course, they had GE appliances.
Yeah,
he used to be a spokesman for GE. But he was a simple man, really, and a great man.